Hi, everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings. Ladies and gentlemen, they finally have a home. And so does a 5-game winning streak for our boys. Wear that winged wheel. Holy mackerel. Are they playing fucking hockey right now? I got to whisper because there's kids. How's everybody doing? Because I have a feeling we all kind of feel like Dylan Larkin actually scoring some goals. Oh my God, is this so much fun? Hey, look at mi hermano. Oh no, he disappeared. Oh gosh. All right, we'll remove him from the state. We'll give him a minute to get ready here. Jim Johnson coming in hot. What a difference a coach makes. Should have Todd in sooner. Oh man. Jim, that is a wonderful conversation to have. Especially since in those press conferences post hire of Todd, Steve kind of gave it away that he had been checking in with Todd quite a bit, and that they've always kept in close contact. So, yeah, it's not something I want to dive too deep into, but yeah, based on what we've seen so far. But we'll get into the deep cut analytics, as Mike likes to put it. There's Mike. We'll get into the analytics that may prove out that maybe we don't want to. We want to be cautiously optimistic. We'll take a look at those, but still, if this is the hockey we get with a new coach, what was taking so long? If this is Steve's friend, what were we waiting for? Just giving him a fair shot, I guess, but I don't know. But I'll say that if this is what it is for another 40 games, that's great. Also, Mike would be absolutely record-shattering numbers that we'll look at in just a little bit. So, again, I passes the eyeball test for sure. Passes the analytics test. We'll talk about it. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. But to add to maybe some of our analytics add to the problems, maybe erase some of the problems. There's also a couple of guys on the trade block that we're going to talk about. Take a look at
we're
some
only
of their
talking
numbers.
about this trade block because there's a very special person on that trade block, and I know exactly who Matt wants to talk about. But we'll leave that teaser for later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Dan B, welcome aboard, bud. Saying Babcock is secretly in McLellan's ear via earpiece and is really coaching this team. Dan B, you dirty dog, you. Our dirty dog comment of the episode. Bright and early here at 7:03. Thank you, Dan.
And Jim, of course. Happy New Year's, ladies and gentlemen.
Happy New Year's.
What a new year it has been for Detroit sports fans, Mike. The tide is turning. And
this could be
turning
the first time
some
that
blues,
all
some red,
four
some
Detroit
white
teams make it to the playoffs. Incredible. I mean, we need the Red Wings and Pistons to do just a little more work, but man, does it look promising.
I mean, for sure, to take a little tiny pivot here, I'm finally watching Piston games.
Yeah, and as you should.
Playing pretty good. Yeah, exactly. It looks like a legitimate franchise is back on the court. Which, if anybody is a Pistons fan and they haven't seen the Red Wings in this 5-game streak, that you're missing out, because this is a team that has an astronomically high power play percentage, shooting percent. It's fun to watch. It's record breaking. It's like you're watching Ovechkin, but in like a tiny, like every player on the team is Ovechkin. So
I was worried you're going to say not just an astronomically successful, but an unsustainably good power play that would be greater than the greatest power play ever assembled, which was what, Edmonton, and was it in the 30s? Did it break the 30s, or was it in the 20s, high 20s?
Oh, that's a good question. We should check on that. It felt like they were in 40% for most of the season. But before we dive too deep into this 5-game winning streak, and you know what, I do want to call myself out here. Of course, when you're winning.
Oh, I got it for you. So regular season Edmonton was just 2 years ago. I guess 3 years ago now. It's 32%. And the Red Wings right now are at like 52%. in the McLellan era. So
Yeah,
they'd definitely be setting the record there.
I was just gonna say, of course, when you're winning like this, when you've got a 5-game winning streak and you pull the analytics, yes, of course they're gonna look unsustainable because no team wins 82 straight games. So I'm calling myself out. I'm just saying, hold on to your britches, everybody. We'll take a look. We'll take a look. We'll get there. But first, Mike, Trey Augustine turns in a gold medal performance, a .917 save percentage. 5 games played, he goes 4-1, 2.52 goals against average, and he puts Sebastian Cossa right at the top of the trade block to see if we could pull it these huge trade targets later in the season. Mike McPlant, goal, 2 assists.
That's the most important part. Yeah.
Now this is the part I wasn't looking forward to. Jesse Kieskinen.
Oh, Kieskinen.
The 2 double I's, right? That's an E. Kieskinen. It's 6 goals, 1 assist in 7 games played, and of course the IIHF, my favorite acronym of all time. The IIHF All-Star Team and IIHF Best Defenseman, Mike, your boy, the man that you drafted personally for Steve Yzerman, Axel Sandin Pellikka, with 4 goals and 6 assists, 10 points total in 7 games played. Mike, this was back to the, like rewind the clock like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where every World Junior game you were just kind of like, wow, another impressive performance from a Red Wing. We're back at it this year, with Trey Augustine and Axel leading the way. Sort of a kind of fell out underneath him on Axel there. Couldn't come up with a medal, but for sure individually was really pushing that team when they were playing the other shitty teams. But for sure, he had a great, productive World Junior.
Boo on you. Yeah, it's going to be my first brand new hockey jersey. When it's the second he gets called up, because I need to make sure I know which jersey number I'm getting. I would get it early, but he's just hot potatoed between like 23, 5, and 88, which are, last I checked, all accounted for. Lidstrom, Lucas, and Patty Kane. So, Jared's saying, about time you called yourself out.
No, after all this winning.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? This isn't up to date, is it? Is this? Give me one sec here. Is Montreal? Are they already knocked out of their playoff position? I've just been listening to hockey podcasts all day, where all they've been talking about is Montreal being in a wild card spot.
No.
They
still be
lost it. That's right. Okay. You know what?
Columbus, Pittsburgh, and then Tampa have the wild cards.
So this actually is this is accurate. It's probably like save a game or two, but Red Wings now find themselves just behind 3 teams for a wild card spot after a 5-game winning streak. They are now at 500, which, as we know, Mike, 82 points doesn't get you in the playoffs. So there's a lot of work to be done here. This is not done. But I like what Jim threw out there because where's our schedule? Let me go find our schedule. What is coming up, Mike, is it's a nice looking schedule for us.
Ooh.
We just took care of Ottawa. Like we've got Chicago on Friday.
Yeah.
Then Seattle and then San Jose all at home. Very super duper winnable game. Oh, sorry, Jim. I meant to pull up your post, but super winnable games. Mike, this could be the 8-game winning streak that we were joking about a month ago that wasn't going to happen. And, if you were watching that team, you wouldn't have guessed that the switch of a coach would have changed the fate of the franchise. But it certainly looks to be. They could flip the outlook of this season. And by January 15th, we'll be solidly back in a wild card spot, not just in this, not in this silly game where we're like, we're a couple points out.
We could conceivably get slapped in the face with reality here in the next stretch of games on the road against Florida, Tampa, and Dallas, and a coin flip for Philly. But yeah, this team, we thought they were dead and that this was going to be a massive sell-off, and Yzerman was cooked. But Eisman made one tiny tweak and bringing in a coach with seasoning, experience, a guy who has coached real playoff teams, Matt, which is not something that poor Blash and poor Lalone were really had any experience in. So they did have some flashes, but my God, does this look promising? Again, not sustainable, right? To go
Right.
82-0, or I guess 81-1, based on the one loss there. But
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
are we already the one thing that I don't want to do is that it seemed like this Red Wing team kind of counted chickens before they were hatched to start the year, so they'd have a grumbly bumbly game, and then they'd also lose to a not great team, unless that team was Nashville. So it kind of feels like they're doing one game at a time.
I'm so happy you called that out, because I was thinking to myself, like, we were saying, like, all right, Winnipeg, that's a big game. Now that's a real test. And then we were like, all right, but Ottawa is like the real test. Because like you've lost a ton of games to Ottawa in the last couple of years. The second this was identified as like a huge rivalry, you poop the bed. And I get that. I get Winnipeg. I get Ottawa beating Columbus in Columbus. Columbus is insanely hard to beat in Columbus this year. There is a higher power on their side. But Mike, your point. I think the real test here is going to be actually not just one, but you need 2 of 3 of these next games to tell me, like, all right, but we're also handling business. You've got 2 teams that struggle very much to win games, and they're coming to a very red hot LCA, which I have tickets to this Friday's game. I am super excited. And Seattle also struggling. They're not struggling the way Chicago is struggling. They're not struggling the way
Chicago is 5-14-2 on the road. So we absolutely need to make that 5-15-2. And then Seattle coming in at 8-11 on the road. What was the last one? Oh, the Sharkies. 5-11-5. So these are not road warrior teams. You should absolutely take care of business. This is it's like every game is a real test, Matt.
The other thing I wanted to call out on this schedule is that that again would put us at an 8-game winning streak.
Yeah.
And when you look at this and the way the team's playing, for sure, you have a very realistic chance to run off an 8-game losing streak here. And I'm sorry, I think they're passing the eyeball test. They like Patrick Kane has turned it on. Mike, I wanted to play a game with you later. We'll say who hated Lalone the most. We're gonna play that game later. But Mike, regardless of what we see as a new hockey team here, you have Florida, Tampa, Dallas, Montreal playing really good. Lane is looking like he should be challenging for the Calder Trophy this year with Montreal. Then you've got Tampa, who, for sure, it's a couple years ago, maybe not a Stanley Cup contender, but Hedman's having a great year. This first line really does look dominant in Tampa. Then you've got the LA Kings, who, maybe Todd McLellan can help you there, but they are a tough opponent. And then you go to Edmonton. Mike, is a very good, very, very good chance. Not very, very, very good, but it's very possible that after this 8-game winning streak, you run off 8 losses. And that's scary. But I mean, you've beaten Winnipeg, you've beaten Ottawa, who's, in the playoff race. You have some good wins in this 5-game winning streak already. Here's the thing. I need them to beat Chicago and San Jose. I don't need them to go into Florida and win against Florida and Tampa. I don't need them to go to Dallas. And even though Dallas has had their fair share of struggles, I don't need them to go to Dallas and win. I won't say like this team sucks now. I'm just like, this is a scary thing about being on this long of a winning streak, is that you start to look at the numbers and figure out how this happened. And some of these teams have the exact recipe to shut us down. So it's the reality. They've shut down a lot of teams this year. A lot of these teams are at the top of the league. So that's the scary part. So we're gonna grin and bear it, right? We're gonna go through the rest of this month after San Jose on the 14th, and hold on to your butts. But that's why I need a win against Chicago and I need a win against San Jose, because that's the point I'm coming to. Because you could conceivably lose 8 straight, and the last thing you want it to be is 9, 10, or 11 straight. And just all the confidence evaporates after you get blown out by Connor Bedard and Tyler Bertuzzi.
No, I think what we want to try and stay positive, and I think that's apropos with this comment here from Blake. Blake, welcome back, saying, "Look who it is, Mr. Positivity." That's right, Click Brothers, it's me. Man, Blake's probably got a pocket full of receipts for all our negativity the past couple weeks. So, Blake, glad you're here, buddy. Dan B tooting his own fantasy hockey horn by reminding us that he's on a 9-week winning streak himself. Legion Assault, welcome, saying let's go.
Hey, he's got the same luck for from a health perspective as the Detroit Red Wings have right now. God forbid the Red Wings have an injury on this team, because they are one of the they're one of the healthiest, healthiest, fittest teams in the NHL right now.
And then Jim Johnson, congratulations. He's going to be in Vancouver to watch the Wings on Sunday, February 2nd.
Nice.
I think Matt and I will be driving back from the WWE Royal Rumble that day. So how exciting is that? Dan B saying Seattle, not the same without Sprong. Who is the same without Sprong, Dan? Right. Jim Johnson, we need to get Tarasenko going. Big disappointment. I think that could be his new nickname. Vladimir Big Disappointment Tarasenko.
Bergeron has been making him look good too, finishing on some Tarasenko passes, and then it's just Tarasenko, get the puck to Bergeron, and Bergeron's like, "I got you, buddy. You're gonna get an assist tonight."
Yeah, Corey, welcome. He's also on the Tarasenko is poo-poo train, saying he seems slow and not smart enough to create space for himself to get his shots off. Yeah, I don't know if McLellan he's been really doing a good job of like trying to boggle the lines together, especially getting Kane cooking again, getting Bergeron cooking again, getting Larkin cooking again, getting Veleno cooking. So yeah, hopefully there's some sort of recipe that can, Shawshank redeem this poor Tarasenko, who seems like one of the worst moves of the Yzerman regime. And Blake throwing out what about Petrie? Yeah, I mean, Petrie's been, I think we're going to forgive him because he did have a hot streak of like 3 games. So I'm going to be okay with that.
He's had a better defensive pair partner.
And then last question here, Matt, and we'll get back into the slides. Any update on Mr. Lion?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess I'm going to pull up Anzar Khan's account, but I could swear that Todd McLellan said, "I'll get back to you guys later in the week," essentially saying we have a day off. Let's pull up our boy Anzar. Did they practice today? No update on Lyon's upper body injury. He's being evaluated. Should know more by Thursday. All right, cool. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, it is Thursday, and you're like, "What the?" But this is we're recording Wednesday night. It looks like they had a day off today, which is good, and we'll know more tomorrow. But not anything that I'm super stoked about. Lion though going down, like that's one of those things where you're trying to figure out, like, okay, this team's been super healthy. You've got these practices now mean something, according to, our fun little tweet here from Max Boltman. So I do want to talk about this, but I mean, there's some names on this roster, Mike, that everything collapses if one of them gets hurt, and you've seen it across the league. Ovechkin's getting hurt. Quinn Hughes is getting hurt. Like the biggest names are getting hurt. The Red Wings have been so freaking lucky so far. I'm just saying we gotta just cross our fingers that everybody stays healthy, because I'm very super duper scared of what is going to happen if we lose.
Yeah, I mean, the one spot we've had some boo boos is in goal, but I guess that's why Yzerman signed all goaltenders in the offseason.
Yeah.
To give these guys the dartboard philosophy, and hopefully one of them sticks. But I'm so glad you saved this quote. Little tweet-a-rooski from, or I guess, are we calling these X's now?
I'm still calling them tweets, just like as a protest.
I like your protest. But Boltman just getting the McLellan quote in there, which, this is becoming his bite the kneecaps quote about our team looking mechanical. And at practice, one of the coaching points we could hear from up top was, play fucking hockey. You've done it your whole lives.
Title of the episode, Mike. There's a reason.
I didn't know that was all it took.
I mean, there's a couple of guys, Mike. Let me pull off the banner here so we can all get a good look at what's going on. There's a couple of guys who have really made the difference here. You could see from what am I looking at here? Our shooting percentage doing super great, Mike, in these 5 games. You have the best shooting percentage. Through the actually just through the 6th is when I pulled this. So I pulled this last night. But your league leading shooting percentage. Against Ottawa, that was a tough, gritty game. You get sort of that chippy, tough goal from Joe Veleno, and then Showtime shows up in OT. That was a great, hard fought game against a playoff contender, just like yourself now.
That was one of my favorite Kane moments this season, just because he didn't even think about passing. He's like, nope, I'm going to end this right now. And he took the puck, bang, just put it home. Eyes
to the net. Now I called this out. The save percentage is 89.69 because I hate when we give coaches credit and all they did was lean over to the goaltender and say, hey, could you stop them all tonight? That'd be great. So we're not in that situation. We are in the situation where the team as a whole is playing better and getting those wins. I am someone who thinks goaltending is voodoo. Red Wings have placed Jeff Petrie on injured reserve, retroactive to January 2nd. This is breaking news, Mike. And the Red Wings have recalled Mr. Ville Husso from the AHL Grand Rapids Griffins under emergency conditions. Does that mean there's another move coming? If you put Jeff on injured reserve, you wouldn't have to call up Ville Husso for an emergency, right? What is that? You wouldn't list it as that, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see anything yet.
Somebody tell me in the comments what would be the difference there? Why would you label it? Why would the Red Wings label it as an emergency condition if they're also placing Jeff Petrie on injured reserve to make a roster space? Is there something else coming that hasn't happened? Jared throws out there balls because we're going to have to hold on to that 15% shooting percentage, Mike, with Ville Husso on his way back up. But I mean, maybe I just jinxed it when I mentioned how lucky and healthy we've been, and now Lyon's going to go down and Husso is going to get potentially some time between the pipes. So I apologize if I jinxed it. But we do have some more slides to take a peek at here. Oh, Ooh. Brand new got his Showtime bobblehead last night. That is a pretty fun bobblehead.
I love the pose, but that face looks nothing like him.
Yeah, that's they definitely had to pivot. I feel like they made somebody else's head, and they were like, "What else can we do?" And they were like, "Let's jiggle his arm a little bit." Dan B throws out there, not to lose him on waivers would be why you would consider it an emergency condition to call him up. Okay. I'm always, so like in the video, I learn everything from the video game, Mike. So to me, you only need to worry about waivers when you're sending some guys down. That's what the video game does. So Dan B might be teaching me something new here, that if you call a guy up, you can also lose him. I didn't know that.
I do want to throw in Corey's comment there that you're not losing Husso to waivers.
That's a good one.
Nobody's eating that $4.8 million.
So we're going to come back to this. You were
saying that, we're not just leaning on a hot goaltender. If anything, it's the coldest our goaltending has looked in most of the season, because when we were just averse to scoring goals, that's when we were stopping almost every puck and just losing games, 2-0, 3-1, because we were just without a pulse offensively. So I think this actually is a little bit of a promising stat, right? That things hopefully, could get better, at least defensively. Offensively, obviously, I don't know if it can get much better than this.
Right. And that's like the scary part I was alluding to. But as you continue to dive through this stuff, I have 5-on-5 after the practice. On the player side, expected goals for percentage, Mike. Mike, we just lost our best defenseman, Jeff Petrie. He's down. No. That's on the left-handed side for anybody watching on YouTube. Tarasenko, Mike, your worst player on the team, along with Berggren, Comfer, pretty low down there. Justin Hall turning in a steady worst defenseman record here in these 5 games with McLellan. He kept it going, too, on the last game, so good for Hall. And then if you take a look at the team record here, I did want to point out, again, we're actually in the bottom half of the league 5-on-5. So the reason I point that out is because we were still in this range with Lalone. They're still, and we're going to talk before the end of this episode with a potential solution that's on the trade block. But we're still in this 5-on-5 is a struggle. How much of a struggle? Less of a struggle. You're still at 48%. But Mike, is it possible that the Red Wings, could Steve be just the smartest GM of all time, and he's starting to see some of these expected goals for percentage? Sure, you're in the bottom half of the league, but you can get pretty close to 50%. But the important thing is that when you have a power play, you take advantage of what's going on. Is it possible that Steve just has been playing 4D chess, and he's like, no, I need the best power play in the league, because 5-on-5 is going to be flipping a coin, Is that possible? Because we are rocking the fucking shit right now.
That was a little bit about what McLellan was talking about. I think what Kane talked about earlier in the year. It's okay to, have flaws in your game, because you still have strengths. So it kind of seemed like with our previous coach, we're going to make this GD system work. It's going to be all about defense now. I know you guys are used to scoring. That's over. I'm going to teach you guys how to do this new system. And we talked about why, it was so, objectively unsuccessful, where it seemed like the Red Wings were skating in cement as they tried to go to war, essentially, with the way they've mentally, 2 wolves in your head. One telling them to play hockey the way they've been playing, and one telling them to just put your head down and soldier through this system. We'll figure it out. We'll be stronger on the other end. And it just wasn't working. So I think the easiest thing for McLellan to do, even if it's, he's giving you maybe a flawed wolf that's maybe not great at defense, looking at Kane and Tarasenko. I regret even bringing up Tarasenko's name again. I'm going to focus this more on Kane. Or even Berggren. You know what? Just do what you do best. How about that? I'm not going to ask you to do crazy things. I'm going to ask you to just, what's that line, McLellan? You just kept telling him, be smart. Be smart, but be yourself. And these guys look really loose. And yeah, I do expect some regression, right? As the winning streak will eventually come to an end. But I think it just really ties into the hockey that we watched at the end of last season, where, the Red Wings were not great at defense. I'll give you that. But no lead was safe for the other team, because it felt like we could, go down 3-1 after 2, 4-2 after 2, and just pepper goals in the third period. That is tied into skill. It's also tied into confidence. And this team is just, over brimming with confidence right now. So it's an encouraging watch. It's an exciting watch for us as a fan. We talked about eyeball tests. This is, again, the watchable product that we loved so much in that last month when we came up an inch short. I'm excited to see more. And it looks like it's going to be led by, my God, guys like Berggren, who, if you ever wanted to trade him, this is peak Berggren value right now, man, because he looks super confident. He looks like a real asset on offense. He's making plays for other people. He's making plays for himself. But yeah, I think I don't know if we're at the slide yet where things become humbling. But Matt, what do you got for us here?
Well, this one is going to continue to talk about that power play percentage, where 24%, nothing to sneeze at, Mike, but it certainly is the 68% on the penalty kill that was absolutely screwing us over. So I wanted to call out, though, it's not just what we could see, and I think it was Jim that called out he's seeing diamond coverage in the D zone. You guys can just picture a diamond. So this is the difference between large box, small box, and diamond. You're just looking from the goalie's perspective. That's how those PKs are built out. And I think it for sure makes sense. How many times have we seen Sherratt, Petrie get beat behind the net? And that's because you're playing that box. For the diamond, you're keeping somebody in front of the net, close to the net. And that's been doing a lot of good for us. I think, Jim, that's a great call out. But one of the things besides the strategy changing, which 75% penalty kill, we're not like, oh my God, problem solved, but we're getting better. I think the real thing is instead of the 6.8 penalty minutes per game, it's down to 5.2. I think they're playing a more responsible game too. Like when I say it's passing the eyeball test, I see a couple, like one or two, and I guess you could see it right here with this number, but one or two less really stupid mistakes that just, you could be coming back in the game and penalty and it's over, or the game is still within reach, penalty. Now it's a 3-goal game. Now it's a 4-goal game. Game's over. That's where that stuff can kill you. And, you know what? When you're in a bad mental space, especially like what it looked like when Lalone was still our coach, when you're in that bad mental space and you keep getting more and more penalties, you're not necessarily, it's not building morale on the ice. It's not really it's not really motivating you to go out on the next go. And plus, you just have another 2 minutes where you're at a disadvantage. Like just boom, right there. 2 less minutes on the ice for you to score a goal. For sure, shorthanded goals could be scored, but if we're being realistic here, that's not what you're out there killing penalties for. So there are some major changes here, or at least some numbers here that could show us there's some changes being made in the short term. It's got to go long term. The Red Wings are not the first team to get a new coach and go on a small winning streak. So can the types of things that we're seeing, can they last? 5-on-5 before McLellan, see we're at 46% expected goals for. So with alone, we're just like 2 percentage points less on expected goals for percentage. Actually, it wasn't that bad. And we did see a 25% power play. It's just like everything was just like a smidge worse. You still kind of had like the same production. But in this 5-game streak, you obviously, this 56% power play percentage isn't sustainable, but it's like the same things are like going on. They're just, elevated right now. And like I called out before, I'm not saying that's a concern. Any team that's on a winning streak, the same thing happens. Those numbers get elevated. So it's just about that when the times are rough, if you get a bad injury, we got, and we have to test it. I think there's things that people could say they've seen McLellan handle this before. You have to test it. But when that test happens, can McLellan pull him out of it? And he had a huge test to pull him out of a very crappy December. He did that. So I think test number 1 is passed. We just
I think
good coach gets through test number 2 through 800.
Yeah, I think a good point I want to piggyback off of is as far as the 5-on-5 play, based on this roster, they are a little better, but it's probably the limits of what this roster can do, and that's okay. But now that we've kind of pivoted the system away from, box to diamond, for the most part, completely abandoning that dump and chase for a roster that's not equipped to do that. it decreases the number of opportunities that you're, taking penalties because you're tired, and try not to give up goals. It decreases the number of times that you're using a shift just to play defense and you're wasting like a Larkin offensive opportunity, or you're wasting a Kane shift because he's got to play defense and then get back on the bench. And yeah, I know the power play numbers are going to come back down, but it's like the way that they're playing, they're just going to get more of those special teams opportunities. So it's, yeah, the percentages will probably even out a little bit more, but it's like the penalty kill should get better because they're not exhausted anymore. And the power play tallies should, kind of maintain where they're at. Because again, they're able to even be aggressive and get offensive opportunities. So, yeah, I think that these numbers for me are kind of promising that.
So, Mike, based on this, who hated Lalone the most?
Clearly, Jeff Petrie.
Yeah, I guess if I said based on this, but no, feelings wise, we were playing this game in our Discord channel, but I I do think like if and we've already talked about it, but it does look like Patrick Kane kind of turned it on. He does kind of seem like the guy who was being told to and listened to get back to playing.
Yeah, I mean, Kane and Larkin are like completely different players. Again, I love borrowing that phrase from Mickey Redmond, who said, this team and the losing streak, it looked like they're skating with pianos on their back. And that's over. I mean, he looks like Patrick Kane, an older Kane, right? But he looks like he's got that little shine to his eye, that aggressiveness, like excitement to be on the ice again. And Larkin, man, what a world of difference, and it doesn't feel like he's having to be scapegoat, for a system that's not working. I don't know if Lalone will ever get to live that down, but Blake saying Cat. Yes, DeBrincat also a good pick. He's played really well.
My only thing is that DeBrincat's right back, like where he, like right there with Dylan Larkin kind of thing. I feel like the play hasn't been miserably bad. I feel like this is more for DeBrincat. I feel like it's more of the Patrick Kane side of things. Like it feels like Patrick Kane has helped DeBrincat's production go up, but I never really hated DeBrincat's play. I think there's something to be said. Like if you're like, oh, DeBrincat doesn't win a ton of board battles. Correct. He's 5 feet tall. He will not win a ton of board battles. That's the price you pay. But you need a Patrick Kane, who is one of the greatest passers of all time, to be able to get the puck to him. And when Patrick Kane turns it back on, I mean, that to me, that's it. That's the difference. That's where the line starts to make sense. That's where they're sharing the graphics on FanDuel Sports during a Red Wings game. Like most points for two players, or like second most, or something like that.
Let me. I was just gonna do go finish your point. Sorry.
No, it's the domino effect starts with the first piece, and I think the first piece was Patrick Kane more than it was DeBrincat. But I mean, Blake, you're not wrong. I think DeBrincat is playing better. I think it's just one of those things, like to go back, like to use the domino effect, sort of. What's the name? What do you call that? When you? Oh my God! When you use some words, Mike.
What are you trying to formulate?
Do a comparison. Oh my God, I can't think of anything right now.
An analogy, like
thank you, an analogy.
Metaphor,
oh my God.
Yeah.
No, it's an analogy.
I just wanted to throw in Jared.
What's that thing where you use words and you talk, and then
it's the opposite of what you're doing because nobody knows what you're talking about. Jared was helping us out a little bit earlier. He said when a team is short players by reason of incapacitating injury or illness or by league suspension to its players per the CBA, teams recall players by emergency recall. Once the situation's ended, the player must be returned to the team from which he had been recalled or reassigned on paper and then recalled via standard recall.
That's what I was missing. Thank you. Yes. That's the getting sent back down afterwards where they can do that lickety split.
We do have a couple comments I want to skip because they're going to be relevant, I think, in just a slide or two. What was the other one I was going to throw in there?
I think we're ready.
Oh, just Corey echoing what I thought. Kane hated him the most. He was laying down subtle hints 5 games in that they weren't being aggressive enough. Yeah, because this system does not cater itself to any of Kane's strengths. The Lalone system, where, the McLellan system is go do what you've been doing your whole life. Okay, I'll go score some goals and get on the highlight reel on ESPN. Jim Johnson does throw in Seider as well.
Yeah, Seider has been great during the streak. I like Jim's call out here. Lucas on pace for a 90-point season. Clearly, Lucas Raymond thriving under Derek Lalone, and we don't talk about it enough.
I mean, we should be ashamed of ourselves if we don't mention Berggren as well.
Yeah.
Because we thought, my God, we're just going to have to let this guy go in some sort of trade because it's just not working. And it's going to be a trade we lose because his value is so low. And now it kind of looks like he's had an epiphany. He's had this moment of enlightenment, and it looks like he gets it. It looks like there's a role for him on this team.
I agree with you. You had a thought pop in my head because of a point you made earlier about not being so dragged down and exhausted from too many penalties. And it's one of those things where what did we see from Berggren was a goal, him jumping out of the box. Mott's got enough to throw the puck up the ice. Like, these guys aren't just completely dogged. At least, Mott's throwing it literally as he's falling down to the ice.
Yeah.
I will throw out there for sure. I think Berggren passes the eyeball test, but we are talking about 3 points. We're talking about 2 goals and 1 assist. So I don't want to completely ruin everything with touting Berggren, but it was just a couple of nice plays, and Berggren finished off a breakaway. So if the argument is we have a guy that can finish breakaways, for sure, we got him. But I just want to pump the brakes on the Berggren conversation.
No, I'm not putting his jersey in the rafter. I just thought we had a complete lost. I just thought we had a completely lost asset, and now it looks like the guy, is redeeming his career in these couple games.
Well, Mike, we could have a lost asset because we're going to have to trade some big boys to pull in some of these names.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure we're looking at the same publication, because mine was Trade Big Board from The Athletic. Is this the same one?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, The Athletic put out their piece because Elliot Friedman was eating up all the content views by calling out Pettersson, JT Miller, both on the Vancouver trade block. Mike, what did we hear from Vancouver to say that wasn't true? Crickets, Mike. Nothing. So very well could have been Vancouver that was calling that out and said, hey, Elliot, we're not too thrilled with either of these boys right now. If you could, let the league know that we're getting phone calls about Pettersson and JT Miller, and we'll get back to you on what happens. So, yeah, it's if you're not familiar with the story, these two got in a tussle last season where JT Miller said to Pettersson to stop being such a baby, to which Pettersson replied by not scoring points anymore. So clearly JT Miller's tactic worked, which I call that out to sort of, there's been some chatter here in the comments about we should definitely go after JT Miller. And I would just say, if you want JT Miller without all of the shittiness, you have him. He's already on your team, and he's helping Lucas Raymond go on a 90-point pace. What you don't have on this team is the potential 100-point scorer in Elias Pettersson. So I get it. I get from the, you talk about the old boys club. You want some toughness. We're looking at the size of JT Miller's head and his neck compared to Elias Pettersson. You're like, yeah, I think I would want JT Miller. Like, that point, I get. But it is, to me, it's getting a little tired. It's something that the Red Wings even have in their prospect system. Like, they have some guys that could potentially fill the JT Miller role if you don't want to include Dylan Larkin in that conversation. But what they do not have is an Elias Pettersson, a guy who's going to absolutely pop off 5-on-5 and power play. If you would like to bring up any problems with his production, let me remind you that you're a fan of the Detroit Red Wings. You just watched your team go through some mental anguish. For sure. These are human beings. All right. Elias Pettersson is better than JT Miller. Do not give me any of that malarkey about his current production rate, because you're a fan of the Detroit Red Wings and you just watched it happen. And we just celebrated how great it is that Patrick Kane and Showtime is back. So chew on that statement for a little bit.
I mean, we just took advantage of this in the last 2 years with DeBrincat, and people thought, oh, he's cooked. He's done in Ottawa. You can see he's got a bad attitude. He's not going to score points anymore. And now he's arguably one of the Red Wings' better scorers. And again, it's just kind of a mental reset. Sometimes a mental reset really helps. Sometimes it puts you on a 5-game winning streak where every time you're on the power play, you just score a goal. So I think that there are JT Millers. Matt, I like the way you phrase that. There are ways to pick up a JT Miller archetype. I don't know if there's a way to pick up an Elias Pettersson ceiling in the draft unless you're picking 1, 2, 3 in free agency, unless it's an unprecedented move, because these guys don't like changing teams. They like signing mortgages and staying in the same city till they're dead. So the only way to really pick up a Pettersson is via trade. Of the two, I would say Miller is probably a little easier to pick up based on his age, and he makes a little less money, so it'd be easier to make the numbers balance. But yeah, if you're down on Pettersson, heed the example of our beloved DeBrincat, who people also thought was cooked at a similar age. So I definitely would reconsider, because you're not going to find a lot of guys like Pettersson. The guy who's can I just put it this way? JT Miller would be a great, second liner for us. Pettersson.
Oh my God, yes.
Pettersson is so good, he could make Larkin a number 2 center.
Yeah, and you can't ignore JT Miller has a 99-point season and a 102-point season, right? So it's not like he can't get up there.
Sure.
But can we be real? Come on. This is the guy that we've had. There's been concerns about his attitude. He's absolutely destroyed Pettersson to the point where he wants, that conversation's going. I want out of here. A year ago, before he signed with Vancouver, Elliot Friedman was having conversations with Elias Pettersson where he was hinting, I'm not really happy here. Happy as a person. So we saw Ryan O'Reilly leave the Sabres. Every player that leaves the Sabres, they turn into super duper stars. They're 50-goal seasons. Maybe a win while you're in Vancouver, because you have one of the best defensemen in this era right now, Quinn Hughes, who the Red Wings could have drafted. So you find wins. But if you have a guy like JT Miller, who's supposed to be a leader on the team, and in front of everybody, he just puts you down. I don't know if I could believe if somebody told me that happens at Red Wings practices. I don't know if I could believe it. And I don't know if I could believe that Dylan Larkin wouldn't slug the shit out of the guy right after. I think you've got a good captain here. I think you've got a potential for an incredible pairing. Could you imagine Lucas Raymond and Elias Pettersson on the same line? Holy shit balls. Not to say that JT Miller and Lucas Raymond would be horrible. But we're talking about a couple of Swedes, man. They grew up playing the same game. They know what's going on. So just the fit is there. It was just a couple seasons ago, we were using pictures of Elias Pettersson wearing his Michigan uniform as he went with Quinn Hughes to the Michigan football game. This is a guy who's got friendships here. He's established some sort of relationship with some of the boys over here. And it's just JT Miller. If you get labeled as kind of a douche and it makes its way to the media that you did kind of a douche thing, keep your douchiness in Vancouver or go over to the New York Rangers, because it sounds like they want him real bad. But give me Elias Pettersson. And
So
I hinted at this earlier too. For Elias Pettersson, I mean, for both of these guys, like you're going to improve your even strength offense, but this is like elite level where we're saying like the struggle regardless of coaching, and that's where it's okay, you've switched coaches and now you're winning. What's the thing that still pops up? Well, your 5-on-5 hasn't really improved at all. So what could be the problem, Mike? Is it do you fire Todd McLellan? Or is it the thing we've said all along is that we need another elite piece on this team? And shit, if this guy's on the trade block, pull a Florida Panthers, man. We can figure this out, Vancouver. We got you. We figured it out before with Aronik. We gave you a gift. You owe us.
You owe us one. I think yeah, I mean, looking at the war for both those guys, you'd be happy if Yzerman found a way to finagle either one out of the Red Wings. It's just to get a guy like Pettersson, who's not even in his prime yet. We haven't even seen his prime. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And he's already would be the most productive Red Wing instantly if you picked him up. I think the hardest part talking about this stuff, and I mean this for Red Wing fans. I don't think that you and I are quite in this bucket I'm about to kind of illustrate, but I talked to a few people about these, this trade smoke, and people either they didn't believe me or they said, yes, and here's all of our garbage for one of these two players. And obviously you got to give up some value if you're going to, help the Vancouver Canucks self-destruct and go into a hardcore rebuild. Matt, have you kind of eyeballed what it would take? Because I got to say, outside of first-round picks, I don't know how excited Vancouver is to pick up comp for Sherratt, and a couple first-rounders down the road. Like, it's
Right.
going to involve prospects that you're excited about. And so I don't know if you want to talk about, like, who you'd be comfortable moving, because it would have to be like a Cossa and Augustine, or God forbid a Sandin Pellikka, which would make my heart explode with sadness until I saw the Red Wings in the playoffs. And even then, I would still be a little bummed. But is there a trade for either of these two guys that does not involve Cossa or Sandin Pellikka?
I don't think so. And I think you've got to be really okay with that. And honestly, I don't think that's it either, because they're going to want some center help. I'm not saying like, all right.
Danielson, right? Pettersson. I mean, Danielson or Casper, of course, but I mean like a big dog, and I think a big dog would be a Cossa or a Sandin Pellikka.
That is potentially, I would probably have to add one of those boys, but I think you are going to have to. You're probably gonna have to have that conversation of like, all right, we've made a second line kind of work sometimes when we've got Comfer playing with DeBrincat, and there could be potential, Mike, if you're getting rid of a prospect for sure that could get you over the edge, but I think you got to load this team up with a second line, and you're gonna think I'm crazy, but you're gonna get Elias Pettersson for 7 years after this, so you're good for centers, and the top 6. But okay. I think it's going to have to be something like DeBrincat and Comfer now, plus an Axel, plus some picks to bring over talent that you're just not able to draft because you're outside of the top 2. I think that's what it's going to take. I think you're going to fall back a little bit after that, but. Yeah. Mike, fuck this season so hard. I don't give 2 shits. You bring over Elias Pettersson. This team will start to figure things out roster wise a lot quicker than if we're still nickel and diming it and saying like the solution's in the bottom 9, Mike. The bottom 9 forwards. That's where we'll figure it out. No.
Can I throw in?
It's your top line,
Jared? I don't think I give you enough credit when I make my comments of the episode, but I really like this hot take here by Jared saying Yzerman attending Sweden's games and the tournament makes me think he's eyeing trading him in terms of Sandin Pellikka. And then he just was saying, don't really recall Yzerman watching Team USA. An interesting take, Jared. It's like I got to sit here and kind of marinate on that because it's not that bananas. And I mean, if you want to make a move that says we're ready to win right now, then you trade a defenseman who, yes, will probably be very good in 2 to 3 years. Or do you include him in a trade where you get an elite top, 10 to 15 center today? Guaranteed. Not a maybe. Yes. Proven. We'll continue to do it. I mean, it's that kind of that's the kind of talent it would take. We can't put a lot of value into Husso and Comfer and a third rounder and William Wallander. Like, no, those aren't the kind of trades that move these kind of players. It's going to be a prospect you love.
And you've got to challenge Steve too. If he really thinks he's been doing a bang up job drafting, then this isn't going to hurt us. If you're completely like destroying like second line potential there, that's fine. You can second line, we can retool and fix. But if you're, and especially like think about the idea too of like making a move like that and knowing that at the end of the day, you're going to have Elias Pettersson and Lucas Raymond on your first line and Mike goddamn fucking Dylan Larkin on your second line as your second line center. Holy fuck. Is that, Mike, I can't stop swearing. My kids can hear me right now. What is it? It's 8 o'clock.
All right, you're learning a lot of new words right now. Yeah.
And we're looking at the JT. This is so funny. We're looking at the JT Miller card right now. So no, this is completely unusable, Mike. If I pull this later and try to turn it into a Instagram reel or a TikTok, can't use this. JT Miller's face is up there. Where the hell's my button? There it is. All right. Where was it? Blake, you're nuts. Dan B. Pellikka is untouchable. Jim Johnson, Matt still has Elias Lovin. I'm in love with Elias.
You can't quit him. He'll never quit him.
Dan B, free pizza for 10 years. Blake, give him Danielson, not Casper. I'd rather Blake, why do we always disagree. I would absolutely do Casper before Danielson. Here's the thing too. I don't think like if you're losing DeBrincat, I think you've got another winger who's going to get a real hard look this next season in Branson Nygaard. I don't think they drafted him just purely about what they saw like in games. I think they drafted him because they know the turnaround could be quick for him going from draft year to NHL roster. And Mike, he's got a hell of a shot. And when he got his chances, in the early fall this year, I guess late summer, we were a little tongue in cheek, but I'm not saying he's Ovechkin. I'm not saying that, but man, the kid just loved ripping it. And that's going to be something that, you need, and you drafted it and you didn't draft.
You can ignore everything before the word, but I'm not saying he's Ovechkin, but he's ripping it.
He ripped it, Mike. He's ripping
also,
it.
Matt, welcome aboard. Matt, your burner account has chimed in saying you could offer Casper, Danielson, and Branson Nygaard. I doubt that trade would get us Pettersson.
I totally agree. They're not in the prospect mode right now. They're in the give us something back for right now.
Yeah, I mean this kind of trade is 3 tiers, right? It's NHL level prospects and picks.
Yep.
So but those 3 alone wouldn't work, right? Just because of the salary cap restrictions. Right. So you'd have to make them interested in something at the NHL level.
Blake,
I don't know. I know you said DeBrincat, but
you don't think that's enough either?
I think that's an interesting. I know the money help that substantially helps the money portion, but do you feel like that's a chemistry trade?
I think it's a fill out your roster trade, and I think you get a pretty close superstar, pretty close to elite winger talent. I mean, this is a guy that gets considered to be on the U.S. team. So
It's almost like if I could find a way to make the NHL guy Comfer, and then I'll sacrifice more prospects to make that work. Whereas I feel like if you're doing DeBrincat, you can kind of do, Casper instead of Sandin Pellikka.
yeah, great call out by Jim here is Thatcher Demko's health has been a concern. How old's our boy right now? He's only 29. But it is one of those things, like if you gave him Cossa, and I've seen what Kossa's been able to do at every level he's played at. If I'm the Canucks and I'm trading for Cossa, I mean, there's a piece right there. I'm putting Cossa right in my roster. I'm not stuffing him down in the AHL. But look, I know I sound crazy, guys, but this doesn't come around. I don't know if I don't think there's anything that makes sense if you're losing Dylan Larkin and you're not going to do like a 1-for-1 Lucas Raymond for Elias Pettersson, which is, you look at your roster, you look at points and you're like, okay, well, this guy's got a pretty good point production. Like it's not equivalent. I think Elias Pettersson's getting those Selke votes. He's definitely been, gotten that nod as like, this is a legit elite two-way player who can put up 100 points, which is super rare. So you're not doing like 1-for-1, but right. It's like those names just don't make sense because you're still subtracting a little too much. But I do think I've gotten into this zone where it's like, all right, we can give you another center, we can help you load up your second line.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. And then all the prospects and draft picks, those are you beating another team at the end of the day. Like that's what those are going to be used for. Like give Vancouver something to mess around with for a couple years. But
I did have a few more comments in here because Curtis, welcome back, buddy. We haven't seen him in a minute. Saying hi, guys. Hey, I missed y'all. Time zone and kids ruin everything. Yes, they do. Love to see Lord McLellan getting the good guys back on track. Yes, these are happy times, Curtis. They're so happy we're actually doing a trade smoke episode here. Derek, welcome. I don't think you've commented today. How you doing, Derek? So I'd probably trade any player for outside of Moore. Just revise that one, Derek, so I can come back to that one.
Yeah, Derek, are you saying everybody's on the block? Like you'd go Larkin, DeBrincat for Pettersson? And then, how do you feel? How would you feel about the Red Wings moving forward? Larkin and DeBrincat for Elias Pettersson.
Worse.
Really?
I think two of our first line guys for a first line guy is kind of tough to justify.
Because if you bring Elias Pettersson over, what you're saying is that Dylan Larkin is your second line center, I think, at the end of the day. So you're saying you're going to trade a second line center, sometimes a second line winger, for your new superstar elite center.
I think you want to upgrade a line, not trade 2/3 of a line for 1/3 of a line.
All right.
But Dan B trying to be the voice of reason here. And this is the scenario where we don't give up any draft picks or prospects. He says, what about just ratting in this summer? And you get to keep Cossa. Well, Dan, NHL players don't like leaving their teams.
Yeah, this is kind of the fun part, at least with Elias Pettersson, is it's not up to him anymore. He signed that huge contract, and he has a no move clause that kicks in July. So,
I'm so sorry. I was thinking of the other dude from Colorado. Forgive me. The one who's the UFA this summer.
Isn't it Rantanen? Is he not a UFA?
I thought you said he signed a big deal.
Elias Pettersson. That's where I said I was sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The fun part of Elias Pettersson is he has no choice. This is one of the reasons Vancouver wants to trade Pettersson, is that they feel uneasy about making this, like their superstar of the future. They inked him for 8 years, and the no move clause kicks in July, and they lose all control. So right now they can trade him wherever they want.
Gotcha. My apologies. And Derek did correct himself. He meant Mo. anyone outside of Seider, is on the table.
Got it.
Yeah, I think that's probably our best player. So
well, if
I
you
think
love
that's our fair
Axel so much, put him in the first pair with Simon next year. Mo Seider for Elias Pettersson, 1-for-1.
Ooh, Derek saying the 200-foot hockey men say Pete doesn't have enough grit.
Oh, that makes me want Pettersson so much goddamn more than anything, Derek. I just want you to know that.
Again,
right.
I think he's just like a refresh away from being, top 10, top 15 again. And it's just getting out of what's become for him a pretty toxic working environment in Vancouver.
I'll just say I'm willing to hurt the now roster for Elias Pettersson. I'm not willing to do that for JT Miller. And a huge aspect of this too for everybody should be the age difference. Yes. Yeah. But there are some other names that are up on the Athletics list. I can't get as excited about anyone except for Mike. I would have a lot of fun if we could get a couple of Hog jerseys over here. Nils Hoglander, Mike, I'd sniff around that hog just a little bit. I'd see what
you'd truffle hunt with that hog.
Yeah, I mean, could you add to your own offer and say, give me the hog too. There was a funny bit on Puck Soup where it would be hilarious if Vancouver got the trade offer, that ended up sending Elias Pettersson and JT Miller to the same team. So they didn't solve anything but for their own problems. So then Pettersson and JT Miller still play like shit. Gustav Nyquist is on the list here. I don't mind that. That'd be fun. Have the return. That would be a big pop for a couple of games before his production.
Ooh, yeah, this is the one. I think this should be our last point before we leave for the day, because I've gotten a lot of kind of comments, questions about looking at Dylan Cozens, and I don't remember him being a big name for you, Matt. I know his.
I remember us focusing a full episode on Dylan
because I thought I wanted Byram. I thought we were going to get a defenseman from Buffalo. And Curtis saying, I swore off sniffing around hogs after college.
Oh my God.
Taking a
Who
break
said
from
that?
Hogs. Curtis.
Curtis, holy. All right, that's comment of the episode. That's holy shit. That's great. All right, where are we at? Where are those statistics? 13 points, 38 points, 68 points, 31 goals in 22-23. Then why is this? I feel like I'm not excited about this at all. Then 23-24, Dylan's turning in a 47-point season, and then this year he's on pace for a half a point per game.
I feel like this is a much more obtainable contract because he's getting paid to brinket money to score like Cop.
Yeah, I think with this one, you better have done your due diligence when you were looking at drafting him. Like, go back to that world. Like, what were you looking for in a Dylan Cozens if you were possibly considering it? But there's also the conversation. Like, he could definitely have been drafted by us, and he most certainly wasn't. So he was available, and we did not take him. Not making an argument or a conversation about who was the right person to take at all. Just saying, like, Steve had an opportunity and said, "No, I'm good." So it is kind of weird that we're coming back to this, especially with the performance he's given. But you have to come back to the conversation of like, well, Buffalo kind of sucks. It is Buffalo, and everybody that leaves Buffalo. Jack Eichel, look at Ryan O'Reilly,
the new coach bump. You get the leaving Buffalo bump,
right? So I think if Steve came on the show, Mike, and told us like, hey, everybody that leaves Buffalo does pretty good. Like, if Steve Yzerman said that to me, I'd giggle, but then I'd be like, all right, I'm on board. Let's do it. That's
man, Dan B from downtown with an attempt at comment of the episode says, how's Cozens' core muscle? Any pending surgeries? Love it. Love it, Dan.
Build up some calluses. Do you think Andrew Kopp can bend all the way over? Or is it just like he's got potatoes in there?
Full of potatoes. I really like that image. Like not digested potatoes, full brown-skinned potatoes just bumbling around in his tum-tum. I think that's what we'll call Kopp from now on. Oh,
right.
no!
You did say
Huge.
you wanted to end on Dylan. I think it's something I'd sniff around just because if the ask isn't huge.
Get the band back together.
Yeah, we aren't having a Pettersson conversation with Cozens, but Mike, there is one move we can just make willy-nilly right now. Sprong is bouncing around the league. Was it Vancouver that had him first, and then Seattle picked him up? But he's doing a tour, Mike. He's coming back to his old buddies. Sprong's on waivers, Mike. I'd screw around with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not paying him anything, so.
Yeah, he's got his contract's like $850 or something. Why not?
I got it. I just happen to have it open. He's at 975, so he's not even getting a mil.
You know who you could put him in the lineup for?
Jim
Johnson.
Guy who's
Jim Johnson throws out there. Tarasenko moves like a sack of potatoes. Mike, how about bring in Sprong? And then Tarasenko, thank you for your service.
We're just gonna eat 9 mil. I guess the remaining of this year, and was it 4 mil next year?
I mean, it's either that or you keep a dog shit hockey player on the ice. So, I'd be willing to do it.
He looks cooked.
Yeah. It is, but we also went into the season saying like this isn't going to save us. So it's not really a bummer. It's more to me. I'm just like I knew it. I get to pat myself on the back again, and you guys hate it when I do that. So
we do, Matt. We really do.
Jared throws out there Sprong, Tarasenko on the same pace this year.
Hey, no.
Why don't we just do one of those fun games where it's like, oh, Sprong, you know what? He's been hurt this whole season, so he's on LTIR. And then bring in Sprong to replace him, and we'll figure it out from there. Right? Aren't we all game? Come on. Let's have some fun.
He could definitely put Tarasenko in the press box at this point. And my God, if there's any way we could get out from under that contract, geez, oh Pete. Incredible, by the way. You know how the Tigers did? God, what was that? Hold on.
Yeah. All right, everybody, close your eyes.
Flaherty. They signed Flaherty to a 1-year deal, and they signed that Kenta Maeda for 2. It's the same thing with Kane and Tarasenko, where it's like, how did you screw up the years for each deal in that order? Like, it's the exact same situation where Tarasenko cooked, Maeda cooked, Kane potentially all-star, Flaherty all-star. It's wild that it's the same owner making the same mistakes. Anyway, hey, Sprong's WAR isn't that bad. It's not that awful.
He's got that finishing number, 81%. What's Tarasenko at? Oof.
That 63% seems high. Seems high, doesn't it?
I feel like you could have a conversation with another team right now and just kind of be like, what do you think? Come on. We'll give you a 2nd round pick if you take on Vladimir Tarasenko's contract.
Costa Sakaris chiming in, which might be an anagram for Tarasenko. I haven't done the math on this. And they say, I think they're not using Tarasenko the right way. There's no chemistry for him in Detroit. Trust me, he's a great player.
Now, Vlad, what are you watching Red Wings Rant for right now? All right. Like, you should be practicing right now or playing video games with your boys. Tarasenko.
We know that's really you, Vlad.
Yeah, we know that's you.
Yeah.
Horrible job, by the way, coming up with a fake name. I'm sorry.
Well, luckily, to the rescue, Mr. Positivity himself, Blake, saying Vladimir is not as bad as you guys think. It will come. I mean, if anyone can turn him around, Blake, it's definitely Todd McLellan. So I guess we could just give it time, give it a few more games.
Jim wants to know, what's the difference between Tarasenko and a line of turtles?
For sure.
Well, there's potential
I'm excited for that punchline.
Or are we supposed to come up with one?
I don't know if that's on us. Jim, give us the punchline for that.
Curtis, see you later, buddy. Thanks for coming aboard. Good to see you. But I think we're going to bid adieu to the rest of the group here. Because we ain't got nothing else to talk about. Unless you guys want to talk about Hulk Hogan getting booed on the most watched Monday Night Raw of all time.
That was one of the greatest moments in WWE history. I loved it.
Him Hulk Hogan getting booed.
Yeah, well deserved.
How proud of the WWE were you that they turned in their largest gate of all time? Just
huge.
Still curious why they mentioned that during a show. Like, hey, we tricked all these people to pay $5,000 a ticket. Wasn't that great?
Got him.
Anyway, hey, Jim's got a better comment here. Super Bowl Lions. That's right. Mike and I went to game against the Vikings. I kind of still don't have a voice right now. It's getting back there. I was really hoping I was really hoping I was going to sound like Dan Campbell. Like I was going to, wake up the next morning, but I sounded like that guy who was friends with OJ instead. Like instead of sounding like Dan Campbell, I sounded like I woke up and I was just like,
yeah, I love OJ. Oh, that guy. I actually sounded more like the Juice. I sounded like Cuba Gooding doing the Juice. Also, Curtis, we miss you, man. This is the only time we've seen a Kenny Omega reference. But a Kenny Omega send-off wasn't on my bingo card. But here we are. An F. Hulk Hogan. Then, now, and forever. And Jared just throwing in their demo coming back for the divisional round. Love it.
Woo. All right, guys. Love y'all. I hope you're ready to lose Simon Edvinsson, and let's do it. What's gonna hurt the most? Let's take Mo off the table because that hurts the most.
Raymond, Pellikka, and Cossa, and 3 first-rounders, and
you know what? They're nothing.
That comes out of retirement to play for Vancouver. So those 4 things. How about that?
They're nothing when Quinn Hughes comes off the ice or if he's hurt. This might be they want Simon Edvinsson. Trade.
Yeah.
What if it was Simon Edvinsson? Would you be willing to set our defense back that far? Just think about that, folks. We'll talk about it next week. All right.
Let's
see everybody.
All right, bye.